In the 1970s, Japanese buyers were camping in the forests of Maryland and Tennessee. They weren't hiking, they were hunting, combing through roadside ditches, abandoned rail corridors, and overgrown field margins across the American East. When they found what they were looking for, they paid up to $20,000 for a single log, for a tree that Americans were actively poisoning with herbicide. This tree reaches 20 feet in its very first year. Its wood is 1/3 the weight of oak. It won't catch fire until it hits 420 degrees Celsius, nearly twice the ignition point of any hardwood at your local lumber yard. And it commands higher prices per board foot than black walnut, mahogany, or oak. America was calling it a weed. What you're about to hear is not an internet rumor. It is 3,000 years of documented history, imperial decrees, peer-reviewed materials science, customs export data, and a coordinated suppression campaign that is still in effect today. In the next few minutes, you'll understand why a tree that grows in your ditch became the official seal of a foreign government, why its harvest in America was run by poaching rings with chainsaws, why a former U.S. president planted it on his own land while the industry fought to keep farmers from doing the same, and most importantly, what you can actually do with this information. If you stay to the end, you will never look at the margins of your property the same way again. The archive opens in China, roughly 200 years before the birth of Christ. An imperial decree orders a specific tree to be planted around government buildings and the estates of the noble class. Its flower is chosen as the crest of imperial administration. The tree is called Paulownia. When a daughter was born into a wealthy family, 3 Paulownia trees were planted in her honor. By the time she reached marrying age, those trees were felled and carved into her dowry chest, the finest piece of furniture in the household, built to preserve silk and parchment for centuries. By the Tang dynasty in 618 AD, Paulownia had been in continuous cultivation for nearly 1,000 years. Under the Heian period in Japan, 794 to 1192, it became the wood of the imperial palace itself. The blossom crest, called the kiriman, was the personal seal of the emperor before the chrysanthemum replaced it. Feudal warlords fought wars for the right to display it. Toyotomi Hideyoshi, who unified Japan through the 1580s and 1590s, carried it as his own family emblem, granted directly by the emperor. That same crest appears today on the official seal of the Japanese Prime Minister, on Japanese passports and visas, on the 500 yen coin in circulation right now. A tree with the highest strength-to-weight ratio of any known wood species became the symbol of sovereign power in the most wood-conscious civilization in human history. Hold that thought. Let's start with what makes this tree something engineers and foresters struggle to believe in equal measure. Paulownia grows 20 feet tall in its first year, not inches, feet. By year 5 to 10, it reaches full harvest size. An oak needs 40 years to get there. A walnut needs 60. Paulownia resets that equation entirely. You plant it today. You don't wait for your grandchildren. You harvest it yourself. But here is where it gets stranger. When the trunk is cut, the root system does not die. Within weeks, new shoots emerge from the same stump. The Japanese call it the phoenix tree because it cannot be killed. It regenerates indefinitely from the same root. No replanting, no new purchase, no seed company required. The wood itself has properties that material scientists find difficult to accept. It is 1/3 the weight of oak, yet research by Dr. R.C. Tang at Auburn University confirmed it carries the highest strength-to-weight ratio of any known wood species. It does not warp, it does not crack. It can be air-dried in 60 days compared to the years that dense hardwoods require. And then there is the property that no American building material can match. The average hardwood ignites at around 220 degrees Celsius. Paulownia does not catch fire until 420 degrees. That difference was documented by researchers Lee and Oda in a 2007 peer-reviewed study in the Journal of Materials Science. This is not folklore, it is materials science. A 2024 review published in Frontiers in Environmental Science confirmed that Paulownia sequesters up to twice the carbon dioxide of other tree species over the same period. At peak growth rates, 1 acre of mature Paulownia plantation can absorb the equivalent of removing 19 cars from the road for a full year. It asks almost nothing from the land in return. It thrives on marginal soil, improves degraded ground, and requires no chemical inputs or intensive irrigation. While the global timber industry clears old-growth forests and chips them into particle board, the one tree capable of replacing them within a single decade sits in American road cuts, being sprayed with herbicide. When Japanese buyers first encountered wild Paulownia in America in the 1970s, they were stunned. Chinese plantation timber had wide, loose-growth rings. The American specimens, growing slowly over decades in crowded forests, had developed a tight, fine grain, precisely what Japanese craftsmen prized above all else for traditional instruments like the koto and ceremonial dowry chests known as tansu. They began purchasing with a ferocity that shocked domestic dealers. A 1993 investigation by the Baltimore Sun documented poaching rings operating across Virginia, Maryland, and Tennessee. Sheriff's deputies were ambushed in the woods. Suspects were found with chainsaws covered in sawdust. Investigators matched cut stumps to seized logs to secure convictions. A single fine-grained log was fetching $3,000 for a tree Americans had been calling a weed. Then there is the scientific discovery that upends the origin story entirely. Paleontologist Charles Smiley, excavating fossil beds in southern Washington and northern Oregon, found ancient leaf fossils nearly identical to Paulownia tomentosa. This tree was growing on this continent millions of years before any European drew a map of it. Calling it non-native was, at minimum, disputed science. In February 1999, President Bill Clinton signed Executive Order 13,112, establishing the National Invasive Species Council. The order was designed for genuinely destructive species. What it created was a mechanism. Environmental organizations with close financial ties to the American Forest and Paper Association moved within months to have Paulownia classified as a non-native invasive. The American Paulownia Association newsletter documented the process in plain language as recently as 2016. The invasive designation was achieved after direct pressure from advocacy groups, national and state park agencies, and the Department of Agriculture. 12 states banned it. The label was applied to one species, Paulownia tomentosa. But in the public mind, it contaminated the entire genus, including Paulownia elongata and Paulownia fortunei, which appear on no invasive species list anywhere in the world. Not in China, not in the European Union, not in Latin America, where Paulownia plantations operate commercially without restriction. A 2015 study in the journal Plants, People, Planet tracked 3 Paulownia species across unmanaged southern Appalachian forests for 9 years. The combined survival rate was 27.3%. Without human management, the trees died. They need full sun and disturbed soil to germinate. They do not colonize established forests. The American Forest and Paper Association represents an industry built on 40-year rotation cycles, government-subsidized logging roads, and a captive domestic market with no competitive alternative. A tree that reaches harvest size in 5 years, needs no chemical inputs, regrows from its own stump, and sells at premium prices is not a problem for landowners. That tree is incompatible with their entire profit structure. The invasive label cost them nothing to obtain. America grows this tree, ships it across the Pacific, then buys the finished products back at a significant markup. Jimmy Carter understood exactly what was happening. A Georgia farmer and woodworker, he reportedly spent his later years actively promoting Paulownia elongata as a sustainable American crop, growing it on his own land, and telling anyone in Washington who would listen that this tree was simultaneously a climate solution and an economic opportunity that American farmers were being systematically blocked from accessing. Nobody listened. Paulownia elongata and Paulownia fortunei, the non-invasive species, can be planted as a managed crop across most of the United States today. A single root cutting, available for a few dollars from specialty nurseries, establishes a tree you will harvest within your own lifetime. Plant it once. The stump grows back after every harvest. That root lives indefinitely. The Japanese knew what they were looking at in the 1970s. They flew over in small planes. They paid $20,000 a log. They camped in the woods. The tree is still growing in the ditch beside your road. Now you know what it is.